Hi, this is Dr. Hassan Abdullah with the course Web Applications Programming. And the topic which we are covering is introduction. Now, introduction covers the 15 topics within the course. So, that is wide coverage. So, the lecture 1 is divided into three parts 1A, 1B, and 1C. So, this is 1C. So, this is towards the end of the questions and answers in the topic of introduction. So this video lecture and other video lectures are based upon using and centered around the supplemental website easymcq.com /GoGet, which is a personalized learning management system. And these are the wonderful features of that personalized learning management system. It has been specifically developed for you, and this entire course uses that platform for your facilitation and for your process of learning. Now, this learning management system has many powerful features, and those features are explained in the videos. And those videos are available at the address given in front of you. Or you can go to YouTube and type my name, Dr. Asan Abdullah, and it will take you to my YouTube official channel and where these videos are available, these six videos. And these videos are also available on Canvas. So what are the features which are of benefit to you as compared to the traditional approach of the ancient slides which are static, which are passive, which are not very interactive and so on. First of all, that the entire content is searchable. All the courses, everything is searchable. And there is basic search, there is advanced search also. And unlike the conventional and the old and the ancient slide based techniques, which everything is fixed, so if there is certain visual disability, so the users can set the font type, the font size, the font color, the line spacing, and the background, so as to get the most out of it, which is not there in traditional slides. And the contents are presented in a hierarchical manner. So you have the statement, then you have the bullets, and then you have the explanation of the bullets, and then you have the references, and you have the diagrams and everything. And when you use it, you will get to know how powerful and useful this is. And of course, since this is an online system, this is like not a static run of the mill kind of a system, old and ancient. So there are online exams which are online graded, there are online solutions available, there are explanation available, track your progress, identify your weaknesses also. And of course, this is mobile friendly also, so you can rotate your mobile phone and things will get adjusted. And you can of course work on a laptop environment also, or a PC environment. And of course you can also track your progress, so that you don't have to note what you have done, what you are going to do, and what you should have done. And all of this is shown in these six videos, right? So I would strongly urge you to get to know the system. Now, the other big benefit of this method of teaching is the question and answer based approach. Unlike the traditional approach in which the slides were shown, a topic was shown, then a subtopic was shown, this is a proactive approach. So, I'll be asking questions from you, and that basically triggers the process of thought that is engaging also. And of course, that engaging generates ideas in your mind, and it helps you assimilate the knowledge, it helps you understand the knowledge, and that is adaptability also. Because if we are not stuck with a certain single statement which comes over and over again, we are coming with different questions and different answers. And of course, that triggers the process of thought also. And human beings are very good at thinking as compared to machines, and we should be polishing on those thoughts. So this approach of these learning management system, and the approach of question and answer, that is applicable throughout all the videos in this course. And then the topics which are covered. So this is the list of topics, and one of those topics is introduction. And this lecture basically covers all the topics which are listed before you, and just give you an overview. All right. And within that topic of introduction, there are 14 questions and answers. So the first five will be covered in 1A, the second five in 1B, and the rest in the 1C. So this is how this course is organized, and I'm sure that you will have a wonderful experience, and it will be beneficial for you. Now we don't stop here. This is just a list of questions and answers, just to give you an idea, right? Now we will go to the actual supplemental website and we will click on each of these questions, and each of these questions has bullets and explanation and diagrams and references. So let's now move on to the supplemental website. So we now move on to the next set of question and answers, and which are basically every question and answer is a topic, and every topic itself has several other questions and answers. So we move on to the next ones, and we have what are web frameworks, types, use cases, and challenges. So basically, web frameworks are there to facilitate the work of the coders, and they consist of libraries, they consist of pre-written code, and many other useful features which actually help the coder concentrate on the creative work instead of spending time writing the code. And there's different parts of a web framework which we will talk about. There are different types of web frameworks also, and obviously there are benefits of using web framework, therefore they are being used. So let's go into some details here. So as you can see, it's a web framework basically is to aid the development of web applications. So how does it aids? Because there are libraries, there are templates, and there are different features which facilitate developing scalable applications. And how it is done? By offering pre-written code. So of course there's no claim that the code is very efficient, but the claim is that the code is there which works. And there are certain common tasks, repetitive tasks, which you can do through AI also. But I would recommend not to do that. You should learn things yourself for user authentication, for request handling, and for other frameworks and all those things. And they're basically as you would have been understanding, and which I intend for you to understand and comprehend and appreciate, that we are basically have a front end of the application and the back end of the application. So the front end is the client end, and the back end is the web server and the database server. So we have frameworks which are for the front end and for developing the back end frameworks. Okay, and then their names are there. So what they do is they speed up, okay, the developers work in building applications. Okay, because why, how and why it gets speed up? Because it comes up with pre-coded features. Okay, and those features are there which are required, right? And so that's there. So when you order definition of a web framework, so what they consist of several components, okay? So which includes the routing URL paths, okay, and the templates, okay, which you will be requiring. For example, template for a login page, template for a search page, template for a registration page, and so on. And then there is something called a session management. So what is management? Is basically what session is does is that it keeps track of who you are, okay, and that tracking is used to make available or to prevent you from accessing or not allowing you to access certain parts of the web application. So that's session management, and you cannot, as a matter of fact, change your session. It's not trivial. And if your session gets destroyed, you can get logged out also. So that is this is we will cover this in this course, session management. Okay, dollar underscore session, which is the global variable of PHP. So those web frameworks, they support session management also. Then of course there are different types of web frameworks, right? We have the front end, we have the back end, and the benefit is obvious. How come it's obvious? That it's re-implementing common functionalities and leading to cleaner and more organized code, right? So basically, if you do the coding through AI, it could lead to cleaner and more organized code and well documented code, but there's no guarantee that the code is very optimum, and there's no guarantee also that the code
will not affect the rest of the code, because if you're working on the part of the code. And of course, when you are you so you have to look at all those things. And I again strongly urge you to do hand coding. Okay, learn by hand coding. Okay, then of course you can use other tools to facilitate your work. So there are numerous web frameworks. So the purpose of this Q&A, or purpose of this topic, is that you should know about these frameworks. Okay, but as I said before, and I am repeating, that this course is not going to teach you about web frameworks. It's good to know about them, okay, but my objective is to hand code the things, right? So once you are proficient with hand coding, then of course you can use other supporting tools also. So the use cases of web frameworks are many. They are used for e-commerce platforms, content management, customer relationship, dashboard, dynamic. The list goes on. And some of these, the domains, I will very briefly discuss in the corresponding sections. Which the corresponding section for this could be the business applications. Okay. And of course, like any language, so you should be using the right language for the right application, or to solve the right problem. So of course, the same is true for web frameworks also. You should be using the right framework for the right application, for rapid application development. And of course, this is not without challenges. And one of the challenges is the learning curve. Okay, the learning curve for hand coding is fairly simple. Okay, and as compared to using a web framework, and specifically when you're using, or you are have unfamiliar frameworks. Okay, and sometimes the documentation is incomplete, sometimes it's confusing, and they have opinionated structures, impose specific patterns and methodologies that the developers must follow. So if you and of course, the following that methodology may not result in some very efficient code. Okay, but of course this will lead to better organized code. Okay, but that may limit the flexibility. So it's up to you, right? It's up to you how you want to proceed, right? And so, and this is not my opinion. As a matter of fact, I'm not going with my opinion here. Here the references, you can read about them. All right. So this course is heavily referenced. As I said, for this particular course, there are probably 1500 references, and I've shown you in the overview part how to review those references, and almost every question has the corresponding references. So we are ending towards the intro part of this topic. So what is authentication in web applications? Okay, now one thing which is already in the videos, that if you press this top button, you'll go to the top, and you click on this close all, it will close all the questions which were open. So it becomes fairly simple and easy to navigate. So what is authentication? And authentication basically in is very important in web applications, because the your application is like practically and even theoretically, it's like accessible to anybody anywhere in the world, or even in the outside of the world also, with net access. So it depends upon your policies, the policies of your employer, that who should be allowed to do what, and see what, and act upon what, and read what. And so that's authentication. So authentication is very important for web applications, I've just mentioned. So there are different methods of authentication. Okay, we'll talk very briefly about in this Q&A. This remember, the topic what we are covering is introduction. So in the actual topic of authentication, there is much more, probably 10 or more question and answer with diagrams and details. So there are different methods of authentication. There are different protocols for and there's something which is authentication and authorization. I'll talk about it. And then there are vulnerabilities or weaknesses also. Okay, and one should be aware of them. So, and of course, session management is in authentication. So we'll do session management, as a matter of fact. And the last topic of this course, which is developing a web application. So we will develop from scratch. We will develop a web application, and we will improve upon that web application step by step. And I will explain the code to you also, which includes session management. because without session management there is no concept of a web application, unless of course it is just reading passive news. Okay. All right. So authentication, what is authentication? Process to confirm the identity of a user or a system. And when do you confirm that? Before allowing access to the resources, right? So if you have the permission to read something, then you will be allowed to read it. If you don't have the permission, you have to get the permission, right or not? So it can be just like username and password, okay? Or it can be biometrics also. Maybe it scans your thumb, maybe it scans your iris, or maybe it goes for a vocal or an audio thing, something, okay? And of course, that allows access to certain parts or certain areas of web application. Why? To protect the sensitive data. For example, if you are taking the exam, all right, online exam, right? So if you are taking the exam as a guest, then you cannot differentiate yourself from any other person, because the data is between, and you can review the results. So if you register, even in easymcq.com, if you register, then you have your username and password, and then only then of course you can access those that results, that data which is for your exams, not anybody else. That is true for other people also, they cannot see your results. Okay, so that case, protecting the sensitive data and the functions. Okay, functions could be adding the user, deleting the user, and doing many other things also. So for example, some people should not be sorry, for example, HR is allowed to view the data, and HR is allowed to and HR knows the salaries of all the people, and they can change and the salary also. So sensitive data versus the functions. All right, so of course, it's very useful and comprehensive domain. So importance is that to ensure the privacy and integrity. Integrity means that if there are changes in the data, you should get to know about it. All right, and the security of the user data. Of course, there are personal details, there are payment information, there are medical information. There's many things. So malicious users could easily exploit the vulnerability. So it has to be very strong and well developed, right? So it is not only crucial for the security of the data, but to build the trust of the user, okay, and the legal compliance also. So there are multi-factor authentication, which may involve using email or a phone or a text message and so on. And then there are protocols also. We will not be covering those protocols in detail because that's not part of this course. So what is the difference between authentication and authorization? Authentication determines who the user is. Okay, so this is Sammy Davis, John Smith, who is the user. That is authentication. So if somebody says that I am John Smith, then the system determines, yes, yeah, this person is really John Smith based upon the credentials provided. And then is authorization, defines what the authenticated user can do. So if the person is identified as John Smith, then John Smith is able to see his exam records. The John Smith is able to see his medical records. The John Smith is able to take the exam as John Smith, and John Smith can read and reply to emails received by sent to John Smith. All right. So once a user logs in, it has that person is authenticated. Okay. Then is what level of access they should have. Okay. So I am an employee of an organization and I am authenticated as John Smith, so I can view my payroll. But if I am, of course, I am authenticated as somebody else. Okay, I don't know, some many person. Okay, and that person is an from the HR or the account, so that person is authorized to look at the salaries and the benefits of almost everybody or the people in the department. So what are their vulnerabilities? Vulnerabilities is the weak passwords. So which is now there's it's kind of a double-edged sword, that strong passwords are hard to remember, but and they're difficult to break. Weak parts of passwords are easy to remember and easy to break also. And then there's session hijacking, which will be cover maybe not much, okay, by impersonating the other person, and phishing attacks and using people, other people's credentials and so on. So there's one thing is the multi-factor authentication, which we have come across using a text message or a phone message, and then of course biometrics also, and so on. But passwords can be and have been compromised, and other things also get compromised, but it's very difficult, very unlikely. And then is the session management. So what happens in this is this is a kind of a generic process of authentication. Of course, the others could be simpler ones or more complex ones. So this is the client, and there's an authorization request to the resource owner. That resource owner could be a bank, it could be a doctor, it could be some application website, and the authorization is granted. So when the authorization is granted, right? Okay, this person is authorized. Then the person is makes a request to the authorization server, okay, and gets a token. And when the person or the client gets the token, then using that token, then the person accesses the resource. And from that, and then the resource server uh, provides what the client had requested. Okay, and of course that was a protected resource. So this is how it goes. So if you see that login is not a very simple. Login is a complex process. Okay, login is a complex process. We will talk more about it. So what is search engine optimization and why is it necessary? So improve the search engine rankings. So for example, like remember that it's not like 100 video channels, or say 100 videos or 100 cable channels or 400, 500 or 5,000. In the context of web, maybe we have 5 million, okay, maybe more, millions of websites. So how would the search engine, okay, you make a search and maybe your website comes at the 1 millionth number. Nobody has the time in this world to click through the next buttons and reach your 1 millionth web page, of course, or web, which is wonderful. But how would people reach there? So you need to improve the search engine rankings. So what you should do, you should improve that your wonderful web application comes on the first page, or this comes on the second page, comes on the top of the page. Okay. So that is why it is necessary to optimize for search engine. Increases the organic traffic. Organic traffic is the natural traffic. You have not done anything. You have not paid for any advertisements. You have not done any banner exchange or whatever. So natural traffic, you increase it. Enhances user experience. Builds credibility and trust. So it's true for example, if you search for something, all right, and what you are getting, it comes at the top of the screen among the top three, okay, then you are more inclined to accept it. Okay, and of course, why it gets accepted, because other people have also accepted it, and there are more links towards that, and that's cost effective marketing. Otherwise you'll have to spend a lot of money. So it's not very complicated. Okay, what I'll trying to we'll cover this. Okay, what I was more interested is in is was over here. So the search engine optimization is based upon keyword search. Keywords are very important. Now, if people try to understand, mark my words, write my words, if people are searching for a certain keyword, okay, and there are many searches for that keyword, and that keyword is part of your website, or better than that, that keyword is your address of your website, then your website will naturally, your application would naturally come at the top. And these web addresses or domain names, they are not selling for hundreds of dollars, they are selling for millions of dollars only because of this keyword search. Okay. Then of course there is the web design. There are many things. Web design. Okay, the web is designed in such a way, right, that it is easily indexable by the bots or the robots or the spiders or the scooters of the search engines which are scouring the verb and the web and indexing it. Okay. Then of course is the content itself. Content is the king, as the saying goes. Okay. So content, what is there, how well presented, how fresh it is, how frequent it is, how relevant it is, how useful it is. Okay. How searchable it is, and so on, which is more of an art. And then of course is traffic monitoring. So that is also part of search engine optimization. So if you know that which pages are not getting traffic, then you may be able to think why they are not getting traffic. And once you know the problem, then you can solve the problem, right? And so on. So all of this we'll be covering in the topic on web search engine optimization. So this is all for the topic number 1, which was introduction. Thank you very much.